Now, our last presenter, last but not least, as we always say, is a very good friend of mine. She's the president of Mercer County Community College in Trenton. Prior to that role, serving as president, she was the chief academic officer and vice president for academic affairs at Ocean County College in Toms River. President Wang, since she's arrived at the presidency in Mercer, has turned that institution upside down and encouraged them, really forced them to refocus on their mission to help students. Dr. Wang is brilliant. She's courageous, and she's an all-around great person. And last week when we were talking, she said, I'd be delighted to come in and talk at your leadership seminar. So let's give her all the time. Welcome her to Union County College, Dr. Jianping Wang.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. How are you all feeling? It looks like you should be like go to the beach or something instead of sitting here, but I appreciate your spending the next hour with me, and hopefully you won't be disappointed, right? So Maggie and I, we were talking about leadership last week and on her days off. I don't know why she calls me on her days off, but I was on the campus trying to do some photos for graduates because we didn't have in-person commencement. So I came up with this idea, maybe I'll stage 3 hours for 3 days in a row. Students can just pop in, and if they want to take a photo with me, I will put on my regalia, not knowing it was going to be 105 degrees. So, but I made a promise, so I have to be there. So I'm there. You know, and Maggie calls, and I'm like, Maggie, I am sweating like a pig. What are we talking about? Leadership. Okay. So then Maggie asked me if I would have come in. I said, of course I would have come in. Anything about leadership, anything can promote leadership is something I'm always in. So I make a promise here. First of all, leadership is difficult. There is no argument about that. It is very, very difficult. We are expected to solve problems big and small. We are expected to improve the organization and the lives of the people that we supervise or we work with without any changes. Just go figure. You're supposed to make it better, but you don't make any changes. Don't change my way of doing things. Don't change my room arrangement. Don't change my seating. Don't change my office. Don't change my desktop. I want what I have had in the last 15 years. Make people feel good all the time, no matter what. Make them feel really, really good, because morale will be all-time low if you don't. You heard that, right? Many times. Do much more at all times, 24/7, because your job description probably is like mine, you know, perform duty as assigned, right? So who knows what that involves, but it involves something. However, you have limited resources. Have you heard of that word, limited resources? All the time, now more than ever, right? Do more with less. How many years have we been saying that? So then you have competing priorities. This is very important. But this is also very important. We need this done by 5 p.m., but this one must get done as well. So you have all of that. And then you have endless deadlines. So you're expected to perform miracles, and you have a lot of demands on your hand. So no question about the difficulty of the job, and you are still on the job doing it. I don't know what's wrong with you and what's wrong with Maggie and I. People on my campus, whenever they don't like my decision, I said, I will yield my chair with my paycheck. Would you like to sit in it? Nobody volunteered. Nobody. And I always offer that. Leadership is important, even though it's almost sounding impossible. Nelson Mandela says the impossible is only when it's done and becomes the possible. Right? So leadership is very, very important, even though it is seemingly impossible. Why? It affects people, It affects so many of the people, not just people you work with and you supervise, but the people they interact. So for example, you served a student, make that student happy. Well, guess what? That student has a family. That student has a friend. That student has relatives. The word of mouth, how you behave on behalf of Union County Community College gets out, good or bad, fast, whether you like it or not. So it does affect people. It affects organization. Whatever you do in the name of the college, it affects this institution. It affects your reputation. It affects your current funding, because it's a freeholder, not a freeholder, what do they call it? The commissioner, yeah. If the commissioner gets a word and says, oh, the college is doing that, the college, just on my way here, I got a text message from my board treasurer and says, look at this article, because Middlesex is announcing they cancel students' debt. Well, we all are doing the same thing, using the CARES money to forgive the students' outstanding balances, except is some people call it differently, and they put it in the paper. So now my board wants to know, why am I not doing that? And so I wrote back and say, we have forgiven more than $5 million debt. It's just not in the paper. I don't have time to write it, because we're all busy serving students right now. What do you want me first? You want to write it in the paper, or you want to help a student? So it impacts the organization. It impacts the culture. Years ago, when I was doing workshop, I call it, policies are written, culture is hidden. Culture is made of our habits, the people who populated the organization. We make a culture. We change the culture. We update the culture. We create the culture. So what we do, particularly as leaders, affect that culture. Whether you know it or not, it happens. It affects the environment. As I said, we always talk about feel. When you arrive in an organization, you have a sense of feeling. If this organization works for you, if this organization agrees with your personal values, you feel it. So that's the environment that you are creating, whatever you do each and every day. It may not seem much when you make a particular decision, but it adds up. It's cumulative. It's a cumulative effect. It's like your diet. When you overeat one day, it doesn't put on 5 pounds or 10. But if you overeat constantly over the time, that's what happens. So environment is the same way. What you do is adding to that environment positively or negatively. You're impacting that. The other thing I want to point out, leadership is important because it not only affects present, it affects future. I don't know how many of you watched the news yesterday afternoon. I just watched the recap. President Biden spoke about the withdrawal in Afghanistan, right? And he explained that he was honoring an agreement that was entered by the previous president, and his hands are tied. So as a president, you can break the agreement, but that has consequences too, right? So as a leader, your action today has a direct impact right now, but it has a long-lasting impact for years to come. The higher position you are, the more impact it will have. So for your department, you're responsible for, when you make a decision, don't only consider the present time. Think about long-term. Good for students, bad for students. That's how you have to think. Your leadership matters. It is critically important, not for the present time, but also for the future. Okay, so leadership is difficult. Leadership is important. How do we stay not to be distracted? That's what I'm focused on today. But there are plenty of things to distract us. There are more things to distract us than things that to stay us on track. And it's important for us to identify those things that derail us frequently. First, I do a lot of leadership writing, presentation, and speaking, because that's my favorite research interest, so to speak. And when I retire, I told Maggie, after I retire, this is going to be my full-time job, to do the leadership development and mentoring the future leaders. I'm mentoring 2 presidents right now. I'm enjoying it very much. And I said, yeah, I can do this. This is really, really good. So first and foremost, I hear most from the people I interact is fear. What if this happens? If I make a decision, what if nobody likes my decision? What if I'm wrong? What if there are more information out there I don't have? What if it doesn't work out? How would I look like in the eyes of my supervisor? You have so many what ifs, you become paralyzed. And it happens a lot in leadership. It happens to me. So I gave an example a couple of months ago when I was a speaker for, I don't know, our region, Asian Heritage Month or something. So I was asked to speak for Middlesex and Mercer County Association of Asian something. And I gave them an example. Do you remember what happened to some Asian beauty parlor workers in Atlanta, Georgia? So right after that happened, I said to myself, I want to make a statement that hatred in all forms against anybody is not acceptable. I want to make a statement so very badly. But then my what if kicks in my head. Well, what if people think you're saying it because you're Asian yourself? What if people think I'm kind of displaying my preferences? What if people feel that I'm just trying to be protected? What if this, what if that? And I got totally paralyzed. I don't know what to do. So by 10 o'clock p.m., I did a coaching session to myself. You know, I coach others. So I said to myself, okay, Jianping, now, forget about you are an Asian, you are the president, you are this and you are that. What if you are just a human being of an international ethnicity, not just a Chinese American? What is the right thing for you to do? What would you do? If you don't have the title of president, if you don't have any of that stuff, what would you do as a human being? What would make you happy? And I said, oh, I will be standing up and speaking up. So then I said to myself, well, what's holding you back? Who told you you shouldn't do that? And I said, no, nothing. So I got up at 10:30. I'm typing away my statement, shoot it out to my PR office, and the next morning it came out to the whole campus. And I got great feedback. And I'm saying to myself, so all this what ifs really didn't do anything. It was just me. The fear is stopping me from doing the right thing. So I'm saying to you, fear sometimes is legitimate and sometimes is just self-manufactured. We are just so intimidated by all those things that we can't decide for ourselves. So fear are real, and they often derail us. It takes courage to get out of it, and you need to find a way to deal with it. And in the next slide, we'll talk about that. How do we do this? And the other thing is very big is temptation. Maggie and I, we were just talking about, shortly after I arrived, some people just say, oh, I want to become a dean, I want to become a vice president, someday I want to become a president. Great. People like me and Maggie, we're thrilled that you have that ambition because we're not going to live forever, you know. So we need the new leaders to take over our positions. But we want you to go in there with your eyes, ears, nose open. You see, you hear, you smell what you're going into. It's not easy. It's very difficult. You have to have the right temperament, courage, and value systems to sustain you to do the right thing. There are plenty of temptations to derail you, like fame. Now, I don't know how famous we are. I don't feel the fame, but somehow it's still out there. People feel like, oh, the president is like it's just such a great title. And also, people have the some sort of a, I don't know, false assumptions that you're paid big bucks. We heard that a lot. You're paid, and my husband did the calculation one day for me, based on the hours I work. He said, you are below the minimum wage salary, you know? And I said, I know. But I accepted that because years ago I was at the Yale Law School. I quit the Yale Law School to go to the School of Education, and my family thought I went insane. Because who would make a decision like that, right? But for me, it was very simple. I made the decision in a class, a constitutional law class, when we were doing the mock court trial. And I asked my professor a simple question. And I said, what if I know my client is guilty? Do I still defend and claim not guilty? And my professor says, yeah, you are hired to defend your client. Whatever the guilt or not guilty he wants to plead, you advise, you counsel, you don't decide. They tell you what they want to do, and you do your best to defend them. I'm like, I'm out here. That's not me, because if I think you're guilty, I'm not going to tell anybody you're not. So during the final exams, 3 hours into the 5-hour exams, I stood up and walked out. I said, this is nonsense. I'm not doing it. I walked out, and a lot of people said, wow, she's done. She's so fast. I'm like, yes, I'm done. I'm not coming back. So I never regretted that. I still have classmates, and they are the partners, you know, across the country, and they have millions in the bank that I don't have, but I always, you know, when we get together or when we're texting each other, I always tell them I'm the richest person among you all, because I feel that there's nothing more richer than changing people's lives. You know, they have a lot of money. One couple, they almost got divorced. I actually got them back together because they work in the same firm and never had a chance to speak to each other for a long, long time, and their marriage almost broke up because one is in the patent department, the other is in the, you know, matrimonial litigation department, so they don't even have a chance to see each other, and to the point where they have no time to go shopping even for suits, so they call a tailor into their house to do the customer's suits. It's no life. It's really, really the temptation of the wealth that got over your decision of your life. So there are plenty of temptations: fame, wealth, other ego, you know, make yourself feel like you're doing something, all those things. And sometimes it's just promise from somebody in exchange for your decision. And Maggie and I will both get those a lot. You know, we have people want us to hire people, you know, and for whatever the reasons. I most recently had a request to hire someone who is the very higher up's wife's office mate. And so I said, no, this person is not qualified. And then I got a pressure and say, if you don't hire this person, then we won't approve you to hire the person you want. I said, great. And I'm going to shut down that department, return all the money to the federal and state. Is that what you want? And the person was like, you're going to do that? I said, yes, I am going to do that, because if we hire the person who cannot do the job, the same thing is going to happen. We're going to mess up the federal and state money, and we're going to have to return anyway. So why not return before we get written up on the front page? So I won the battle, but it's not usual. Most leaders don't do that because there's consequences when you do that. So there is this. And then last but not the least is interferences. You have all kinds of interferences that comes your way. Some of them are politically motivated. Others are just your friends not knowing the nature of the things. They want to offer you their advice. You should do this. You should hire this person. This person is the best friend of my best friend's spouse, and they are absolutely whatever, good-willed. But they don't know. So now you got to deal with all this stuff. So there are all kinds of interferences coming in. And then, of course, you have your own people. Some of them are rising up. Some of them just getting the paycheck, half asleep at the wheel. Some of them cannot wait to retire, and they retire on the wheel. So you have all these different category of the people that interfere with your operations, and you have a decision to make. Whether to hold this person feet to the fire till the last day. I had a case where an employee said, I'm overwhelmed. I can't do this. And I said, great, put it in the medical leave. No, I don't want to put a medical leave because I'm going to retire next year and I want to be paid out of those sick days. I said, it doesn't work that way. But we have all kinds of, we are human beings. We have emotions. We all like to be liked, right? Nobody wants to say, hey, I want to be hated. No one. Everybody wants to be liked. I want to be liked too. Maggie wants to be liked too. But those interferences make us less likable. Does that make you wonder if you are made up to be a leader? You should ask yourself those questions before you choose what to do. So now how do we keep our leadership on track? I have, over the years, made name for myself being very straightforward, put it nicely. Maggie, you had probably a different word for that.
You're direct and honest and candid.
I am so direct. Most recently, I was on the small group of presidents. We were talking about a funding formula and the stuff, and certain people don't want certain things in the funding formula. And so I just said, okay, let me ask a question. You don't have to answer if you don't feel comfortable, but I have to ask. You don't want this, you don't want this. Why are we here in the first place? You don't want any changes, you shouldn't be on the committee. Boy, that just ripped the Band-Aid off, you know? So, but finally we have a funding formula. 50% committed to performance, and diversity is included, you know, all these other things are included. It was an ugly fight, I will admit it to you all. I've never seen this kind of a fight in a while among presidents, but we fight. So you got to understand why you get into a leadership position in the first place. So I used to teach a course until I became president. I don't teach anymore. I created that course myself. It's called Leadership and Humanities. It's a PTK honors course. You have to be certified to teach that course. So the first thing I ask everybody sign up for the class, I always say, why did you sign up for my class? So invariably the students say, oh, someday I want to become a store manager. I'm right now working for Target. I want to become a store manager. And then somebody says, I'm working for my father, and my father wants me to take over the company, so someday I'm going to be the leader and CEO of that company. And somebody will say, you know, I'm working for a non-for-profit, and I'm thinking whether I should go in to become a CEO one day, whatever. I said, wrong. You're in the wrong class. And they're all like, what? Isn't that about a leadership? I say, yeah. But that's not the reason you become a leader. You want to go into a position. The reason has to be coming from within, not from outside. So they're all like, ooh, I don't understand what that means. I said, what you are saying to me is like, I know something and I'm hiding here, and in this class I'm supposed to dole it out and show it to you how to become a manager, how to become a CEO, how to become the owner of your father's business. I don't know any of that. I'm here to teach you to understand who you are and to value who you are and bring that to your leadership position. And that explains why you want to become a leader in the first place. So understand your purpose to become a leader, not to become a manager. Your reason to become a leader is to what? And then everybody started to say like, oh, I don't know. I said, that's great. That's a journey that we should all walk on, to identify your life purpose. So know why you want to become a leader in the first place is to understand what's the purpose. that you have to become a leader. And then, once you know why you want to become a leader, then you need to understand your value system, because, as we talked about before, there are many distractions, there are fears, there are interferences, there are temptations. They're always going to throw the curveball at you. How do you stay focused? What anchors you? Some people call it a North Star. Who is your North Star? What is your North Star? What matters to you most? You need to really, really figure it out for yourself. In my class, one of the homework is develop your personal mission statement. And so at the end of the semester, everybody has a mission statement. I have a mission statement on my bedside nightstand, and I frequently check on it to make sure I'm staying true to my own mission statement, especially during the difficult times, you know, that your value is your anchor. You go and you check if this is what you want to do, and that's why you want to do it. I give you one example. Years ago, I was interviewing for the dean's position. The committee is 23 people on the committee. So I was like, whoa, this is a very big committee, because, you know, how can everybody ask a question? It turns out the committee chair asks all the questions. So the chair asked me, if the administration wants you go left, if the faculty wants you go right, which way you go? I'm the dean. I'm supposed to answer. So I said, nowhere. And he said, no. You cannot avoid the question. You have to answer. I said, I just answered it. Nowhere. And he said, well, explain. I said, yeah, I was going to explain. You told me no. But my explanation is, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going home to think about it, to ask myself what my value will say to me I should do. In other words, the administration wants to go left. For what? The faculty wants to go right. For what? What are the reasons? It's not the left or right. It's what is the right thing to do. So until I figure that one out, I'm going nowhere. I'm going to stay the course, and then I'll decide where I'm going. So even if I'm wrong, then I learn a lesson from that. I cannot blame anybody else but myself. And I wouldn't say, oh, I wish I had turned right, or I wish I had turned left. Then you will live a life full of regrets. And you will have a lot of sleepless nights. With me, make a decision that I own, I sleep soundly. Even though I made a mistake, I said to myself, okay, you screw up, you didn't collect that information. Next time, when you make a decision like this, go collect more information. So you won't screw up. Then I'm very good. I fall asleep soundly. And I feel very good about it. So that's what you need to do, is the value. Determine what's mattered to you most. And then you have to think about legacy. What importance you want to leave behind you. This is not about our ego. This is about how to secure the progress we've made so far. So this morning I had a cabinet meeting, and we were discussing some things. So in the end, I said to the team, I said, what lessons do you draw from this? Because someday I'm not going to be with you. You are going to be leaders without me. What would you do? How do you make sure you stay true to the mission of the institution? So I got dead silence. I said, silence is good. We'll continue this discussion next week. Think about this. It's not about getting a decision, but how to get there is very important as well. So these are the things I would say would keep you on track, even though the leadership decisions are very hard to make. But when you keep your purpose, values, and legacy on the front, then more difficult things become a little bit less difficult. So I titled this presentation, Lead from Who You Are, for that reason. In other words, when you lead, you must know your values by knowing what's important to you. So all your decisions, whether people like it or not, or whether it's popular or not, or it is in style or not, you know you made it based on your own value. Be true to your value so that you always know what matters. As a community college, I have made it my business to make sure all decisions put the students in the front and center. So I always ask, what has to do with students? You want to do this. And they say, well, we think, I said, you already betrayed yourself. If you don't have an answer coming right out of your mouth, that means you never thought about it. Now I ask, now you say, maybe this way. No, it should be the other way around. It should, because the students need this and that, this is why we are suggesting we do this. It should always be like that. Also, one thing that I am very, very keen on is applying in your beliefs, in your cultural heritage and values. I'm giving a workshop through Academic Impressions on September 17 that focus on leaders as immigrants, as people from different cultural background. I want to talk in depth about this. I shared the information with Maggie, I think. Yeah, so, yeah.
We're going to set it up in N4, so we'll send out a link to this.
Okay, yeah, because I was asked to do this by the CEO of Academic Impressions, and I originally said, no, I don't have time for it, but then I go through the same coaching process for myself. What's important to me? You know, your time is always in demand, but this is important to me, so I'm going to do it. So they actually accepted my time proposal. They was going to propose to do it a Wednesday. I really can't move things around on Wednesday, so I said, how about a Friday? Friday afternoon, I can make happen. They say, fine, we'll do Friday afternoon. So that's how we pick the time. So that's, I feel like we must embrace our own beliefs and our backgrounds, our upbringing, our cultural ethnicity, rather than try to overcome as if it's a barrier. Have you heard it like, this is the American way, we need to assimilate? Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of things I do, people will say, oh, that's really very Chinese. I said, what's wrong? It's part of me. I can't deny I'm Chinese. My DNA, even long after I'm dead, I'm still Chinese. You know, my daughter, when she was young, teenager, wants to go to the cosmetic or whatever the thing is called, you know, to change her look and something. I said, Iru, people can smell you as a Chinese, people can find you as a Chinese, no matter what you do. And long after you're dead, you're still Chinese because the DNA is going to reveal you're Chinese. And she was like, oh, Mom, you're so 50s. and it's true. You know, now later on she found out, you know, when she's 30-some years old, she realized, she said, you're right. In my DNA, I cannot change that. And I said, so embrace it. So being a Chinese, hard work is like no hard work. It's just a normal thing. So when I work really hard, people say, oh, she works really, really hard. I said, you call that hard work? So now I have the same expectation of my team. So my team is like all running. And so my board member one time said to me, do you realize, like, you wear sneakers on the campus and you run really fast. Everybody now is wearing sneakers and following you. And I said, well, I didn't realize that, I have to admit. But apparently my value, my cultural heritage value is penetrating into my work, and I'm not apologetic about it. And that is something I think a lot of immigrant leaders deal with. You know, whether you're first generation or second generation immigrants, you carry with you cultural heritage. And somehow this America has a melting pot, but not to say both ways melting, but only one way melting. The immigrant has to melt into the mainstream to fit it in. You have to overcome your cultural heritage to be American. I don't buy that, because that is absolutely violating your own value system. If you are not who you are, how can you be a good leader? I have yet to meet a leader who is a fake but really great leader. Have you? I always find you have to be a great human being before you can become a great leader. You have to become a great human being, authentic, real. Great doesn't mean you're perfect. It just means you are authentic, you are real, and you're anchored. Doesn't mean you're perfect. Perfect doesn't exist. No one is perfect. We all make mistakes. So then the last one is actually the one that I focus a lot in my coaching, mentoring business, not business, whatever, the efforts I'm doing. That is, I help the people identify those interferences. I call them noises. They talk in your head. They tell you, what if this? What if that? And that become interferences of you honoring your own wisdom, experience, background, value, etc. Okay? So you need to find ways to identify and minimize those interferences by knowing what's making you deviating from your values. Like, I talk to myself. I don't know if anyone will do what I do, but that's how I do it. I talk to myself. What if this? What would you do? What if nothing is the obstacle? Money, time, resources, nothing is an obstacle. What would you do? And then I say, well, I will do this. And then what's holding you back? This is how I find my obstacles. And when I find my obstacles, I will try to say, okay, if I just ignore this obstacle and go seek assistance that will help me remove that obstacles, then I'm going to get there, right? So we all have areas where we're not very good at it, right? You took a new project, you've never done that before. So now you want to make it perfect. You want to do the best job you can, but you have never done it. So what's holding you back is fear of failure. So, but there are people who have done that. And you may be too proud to reach out. Guess what? Borrowing somebody's brain is free. You don't have to pay for it. And the person who is lending you their bright ideas will feel honored to help you out. You cannot lose in this business. You don't pay for it, you get it for free, and they thank you for taking their ideas. How can you not take that deal? I think it's a great deal. So I one time gave a talk at Princeton Chamber of Commerce called Asking for Help. And that's where you have to put your ego aside, admitting that you don't know everything. There are people who know what you don't know. That's quite all right. So make sure you remove those interferences. So these are the things that I just want to share with you as a background, but I really would prefer us to get into the dialogues and conversations. Maggie and I were talking, and Maggie said, I'll give you half an hour. I said, no, I can't do half an hour. I said, I need at least an hour to do this thing, to set up a stage, and then I really want to get into dialogues with you. So I'm putting a couple of questions up here. I'm not sure how many of you can see. You can? Okay, you have a better vision than I do because I can barely see even stay here. But I'll read it out for you. When it comes to leadership practice, what matters to you most? So that's something you needed to have a clear understanding. What matters to you? Someone says, make a difference. And I hear a lot about that. Someone says, make the place better than when I arrived. So whatever it is, write it out so that you know that is what you are here for. Second is, think about a time when you make a decision that you are truly proud. So then you can dissect that time and say, what I really did there, how I did it. And then you try to replicate at another time. But at the same time, you can think about a time when you did not make a decision that you're very proud of. You wish you did it differently. Then you dissected that and figure out what went wrong. What got in the way? Then finally, after today's session is over, I want you to make a promise to yourself. Starting tomorrow, you'll do at least one thing differently than you have done in the past. To start on the journey of authentic leadership and honor yourself. Leadership is about service, but you can't serve anybody if you don't believe in yourself. And you cannot be a great leader if you project yourself as a not authentic self, because people see through you. They can feel it, they can smell it, they can taste it. No matter how good you hide it up, you can put a makeup, you can put a smile, you can talk sweet, but people see through. So, I was going to ask people to ask if you have any questions, but because of the subject matter we are talking about, it might be very sensitive. So if you have a question that you don't want to raise your hand and ask, I encourage you to put down on a piece of paper. That's why I asked Maggie if we can have some index cards or stuff paper, but I see you have a note paper in front of you. So if you have a question that you are a little bit uncomfortable, raise here, that's okay. Even though I prefer you push yourself doing that, but those kind of a journey of accepting who you are takes a long time. It doesn't happen in an hour. So give yourself a little crutch. Write down your questions, and you don't have to put your name in there. I'll collect those papers, and I'll read out the question. No one knows who asked that question, and we'll discuss it together. Deal? Great. So take a minute to write down your questions. Unless you are free, you are comfortable, raise your hand, ask questions, and then we can dialogue.
Yes. Earlier, you were mentioning that you had an interview at a upcoming meeting, and there were 23 people in the room, and you showed us the question they asked, and your answer. I guess my question is, as a president, if you asked, they didn't follow your lead, if they decided that that wasn't the right way to move forward.
If I understand your question correctly, you are asking me if I ask one of my reports to do something and that person didn't do it. You asked me what happened to that person. Is that your question?
No, not what would happen, but I think it was more because when you were posed the question, you said nowhere because you didn't know what the right answer was, whether it would be to go to administration or faculty. But as, I guess, the head of administration, if you were to ask someone, maybe a dean, to go live, and they said they needed to go nowhere to process that, how would you be able to, I guess, manage that relationship?
Okay. Actually, I normally don't do that. I normally say, okay, we have this problem. What's your thinking? That's what I called lead like a coach. So you don't go in there, tell the people to do this. You want to coach people to come up with their ideas. The reason for that is people who need to solve the problem are much closer than you are, than I am as the president of the college. Like, for example, this morning at the cabinet meeting, my VP of Academic Affairs was asking me for clarity what we should do with the classes, in-person, remote, combination of both. And I said, what are you going to do? I don't say, go do this, because I'm further away from him. And so he said, I really needed some clarity. I said, when you find it, share it with me, because there is no clarity right now, from White House all the way down here. So he said, so we need to find something. I said, well, that's what the leadership is about. Find the creative ways. We have technology spread all over the campus, in different corners of the campus. How can we, disperse? Because we have no resources to reduce the class size, and your president would agree with me. We have no way to reduce class size 50% to do the social distancing. That means we double the payroll. You can't print the money. Only feds can do that. Everybody else goes to jail for that. So, so that's the reason why I say, what are you going to do? So when he says, well, I'm really struggling, I said, I tell you what you can do, is get together with the IT VP and take a walk around the campus. Then you probably will be inspired to have some ideas. And he said, okay, I'll do that. So I don't tell them what to do, but I gave them a little, I don't know, nudge to think creatively. Yep. Yes?
I want to say I appreciated what you were stating about leadership being who you are and not what you are.
Yeah.
I think for me personally, it has been a while that I've always been in leadership roles for myself and who I am. I've always known that. And I think a lot of times people associate titles with leadership, and they don't realize it's your character that makes you a leader and not your role. I don't care how much money you make or who you oversee. You know, and there are many times that leadership is not owned by the individual, and they don't cultivate themselves to become leaders or to be that. So I just wanted to say I appreciate that, because I have to try to not equate position with who I am, because I've been me all the time. And so I will continue to lead even if I didn't have a position at all. So you have to own that for yourself.
Well, you spoke very eloquently about that. The very, very well-known classic example is Mother Teresa. The world-renowned leader, but no title. Mother Teresa is her title. It's not a CEO, not a prime minister, nothing, but she has more power than some prime ministers in the world. Same thing is true with Hitler. Is the head of the state, but no one recognizes him, not here in this country, maybe in Cuba or somewhere. He's recognized as a leader. So it is really who you are defines you, the leader, not what positions you hold. Someday, I'm going to be a retired, plainclothes citizen living in Princeton Junction. But I intend to be a leader in whatever I do. I will volunteer in my community. I will go do whatever I need to do, because that's who I am. Yes?
Well, a great leader is always a follower before. I wanted to ask you, who do you look up to for inspiration and mentorship?
I don't look up to one person. I look up to the people who perform courageously, you know, to do the right thing for the right reasons. So I don't have a particular person that is my idol, because I'm not, I'm an atheist. You know, I don't go to church or synagogue or temple and other places. I will visit some of those places just to hear some speeches and people that I admire, I respect. I always admire people who are very authentic. Most recently, we have a friend who is a lawyer, and I always thought, for some reason, I guess I have like a stereotype of thinking about lawyer because I went to law school and et cetera. So, and I always thought he was a very arrogant, always kind of a winning, because he's a very competitive athlete, and yeah, I know. I married the one for 14 years and then got divorced, so you know how I feel about that. So he and we played a few games. I play pickleball, as Maggie know, I play pickleball. So I got a very competitive, so I was playing with him. And then one day he didn't come, so I asked my husband, I said, what happened to Chris? He said, oh, you didn't know that? Chris was diagnosed with cancer. I said, oh my God. So I called Chris, and long story short, after several phone conversations, I really found him to be a very, very normal human being. He's scared his pants off right now. Just like all of us who gets the cancer diagnosis, who doesn't get scared? So now your real human side reveals. And that I admire. He has the humility to accept his own vulnerability and willing to talk to anyone and everyone listen to. So the day before his surgery, I went into my backyard, and my husband planted a lot of roses because of the COVID. He's staying at home, nowhere else to go. So he grow the whole garden of roses. So I collected some rose petals, and I have this somehow an inspirational idea for the moment. I put them up in the heart shape and framed it. And I said to my husband, maybe we should, go visit Chris in the hospital and send him. He said, no, Chris's surgery is Monday. And he is going to come to play the game tomorrow. I said, perfect, let's bring the frame with us. And so he showed up, and my husband and I, we presented the frame to him. He was in tears. This grown man, macho lawyer, was in tears. So this is the kind of thing I admire. I don't have like a particular person. I read a lot of leadership books, and there are certain leader writing I like Simone is one of those modern leadership authors that I read a lot. But there are many others who talk about authenticity, psychology of happiness, positive psychology, all those things. I really follow because I believe in it. In order to be a positive influencer, you have to be positive yourself. So our job is very difficult, and sometimes it can drain you all the way down to the floor. You need to maintain this positive attitude to influence the rest of you. Because if you projected the doomsday sentiment, the rest of the people, whether you don't say it or not, they feel it. They sense it. So our college was very fortunate. We had less than 70 cases since March of last year. And we had done a great job as a team. We say we're in this together. We need to, so from April 1st of 2020, we made a slogan. We're here to serve students, communities, and one another. I make sure we serve one another is in there. Because if we don't serve one another, then we will have no one left to serve students of the community. So we did a number of things to serve one another for the college. We did for example, emergency loan to our employees when the first pandemic hit. Employees were waiting for the federal, whatever they call it, the stimulus check. But the government has a glitches, it didn't come, and several employees couldn't pay for the utilities, the phone bills, and whatever, gasoline, something, because they got massively laid off. The spouses got laid off, themselves, whatever. The college didn't do any layoff. We didn't do furlough. We didn't do layoffs. We did emergency loan to employees. That's our gesture to take care of one another. There are many things you can do to demonstrate your leadership and your honoring of those people, not necessarily worship of one particular person. I don't know if I answer your question. Okay, I think we have a hand over here, this orange lady, I think. Did you have your hand up?
I did.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
That's okay. If you want to wait, we have other gentlemen say. Yeah, this gentleman wants to ask.
Yeah, first of all, I appreciate your presentation. I love this kind of stuff. It's my love language, this leadership thing. So, I'll say that, I coached football for many years, and part of coaching is identifying and developing leaders. Yes. So I guess my question to you is, are leaders developed or are they born?
Both.
Or both?
They're both. You have to have the right aptitude, willing and eager to learn. No one can be developed if you are not want to be developed. The same thing on your football team, right? You see a young athlete who are like a sponge, want to learn, eager to learn. You can coach that person. Sooner or later, this person is going to play football better than you. Your skill set is not important. It's your ability to identify the talent and allow the talent the space to grow, to make mistakes. One thing, I don't know if I said that in my team, is I say to my team, I'm not looking for perfect execution. Everybody's going to fall. We're going to all make mistakes. It's how you get up. If you fall, you feel, pity, you want people to lift you up, well, too bad. Nobody's going to do that. I'm not going to do that. You sign up for it. You sign up for the leader, get up yourself. I will provide you with something, Band-Aid or whatever, to wipe the stuff off, but not wipe your mistakes off. And so you use the absolutely right word. A leader, and I think Greenfeld is one of the leaders' theory that I follow a lot, servant leadership. Some of you know that. He writes the servant leadership, and he defines the leadership as someone who makes the lives of the people that you work with better. That's the definition of leadership. If you exercise leadership effectively, then the lives of the people that you led, that you interacted with, that you worked with, should be better. And if their lives are not better because of your leadership, then you are not an effective leader. So there are like thousands of leadership definitions in there. I think that one is most meaningful to me because it fits my value system. I'm here as a purpose of my leadership is to make a difference. And I want whatever I touch is a little bit better. So a couple years ago, I went in and got myself an executive coach certificate for that because I want to learn how to be a better leader, to coach the people. It's enabling. It's really enabling the people to identify their potentials and maximize their potentials through your encouragement and through recognizing the interferences that is blocking them from blossoming. We all have the incredible talents in different ways, but it's those fears, temptations, interferences that is limiting our ability to blossom, talk ourselves out of it. And I have used that example many times before, so I'll use it here again. How many of women go shopping alone? The clothes shopping. Okay, so when you go there, you pick up something from the rack, and you look at it, and you put it on yourself, and you think it's good, and you think it's whatever. Sometimes you put it back, or more often you put it back and then you take it home, because you think, oh, I like it, but I'm too old for this, right? It's too bright, right? It's too, calling out for attention. I really like this color, but maybe my sister, who is 10 years younger than me, will be perfect with it, so I'm going to get it for my sister. But you really like it, but you put it back. Or some of you like me, I like a jewelry, so I really like this piece, but I won't buy it because I think my husband will say to me, don't you have this already? So I put it back, right? So seriously, one year, I saw a piece in the store. My husband was with me, and I said, oh, this is so nice. And my husband didn't say, don't you have it already? He just said, would you like it? And I said, no, I already have one. I shouldn't get it. I went home. You know what? I keep thinking about it. I keep thinking about it. So at night, I said to my husband, I wish I bought this. I really like this. And my husband said, well, next time when we go there, we'll get it. I said, well, it's going to be gone. Somebody's going to take it. Well, my husband is really sweet. So the next week, he went back and he got it. And so at the dinner table, he said, here, I got something for you from Westport. And I'm like, oh, you went back? He said, yeah, because you want it, and I told you to take it, and you didn't. And now you keep thinking you want it. So we constantly ignore our own potential, our own desire, our own wishes and wants, and let something else interfere with us Same thing at work. You want to make a decision this way. You think this is the right thing to do, but you let something else talk you out of it because you are concerned, oh, maybe so-and-so won't like this. Maybe so-and-so would think I'm crazy, right? What if it doesn't work? What if my president doesn't like it? All kinds of things. You talk yourself out of it. And I share that story a lot, particularly with the women's group, since you have quite a few women here, so I'm going to share this story. Madeleine Albright wrote his biography, and there was one story she shared in her biography is when she became the first female Secretary of the State in the United States, her first cabinet meeting where a national security issue was discussed. Within first 10 minutes of the issue framed by President Clinton at that time, she had an idea how to address this issue. And she looked around the room full of male security advisors who have been in the business for a long time. And she said, that cannot possibly be the solution. It's so simple. Somebody else would have thought about it. So she just kept her mouth shut and sat there. The meeting went on for another 2 hours. One idea after another was put on the table and got rejected. Everybody said, well, this doesn't work. That doesn't work. Finally, there is this gentleman and says, I got it. And he spoke up. It was the exact idea that Madeleine Albright thought about 2 hours ago. But he didn't say anything. And the minute that gentleman said that idea, the rest of the room said, that's it. That's exactly what we need to do. And you know what Madeleine Albright said to herself? Never again. Never again doubt yourself. So I'll leave you with this, and then if anybody has a question written you want to share, or we're done. The time is up, I think.
Question right here. One last question. I always have one question, because we're talking about solutions. What do you think would be the one solution that community college will have?
I think so the question is, what do you think is a solution to help the community college as a whole? I don't know the answer. That's my first answer. But I also want to say the answer is in each and every one of us. If we are deviating from the mission of the community college because it's difficult, because we don't have money, because we don't have people, because of this, you can have thousands of becauses, the community college will fold. But if we believe in the mission of the community college, and we all collectively fight for it, find ways to do it, I think community colleges are unstoppable. So that's my feeling. And I happen to be the latter camp. And I believe that COVID has demonstrated the community college's resilience and the economic recovery that this country and the world need a community college's participation in it. Because Rutgers of the world would not do the workshop, short-term certificate training. They don't know how to do it, and nor do they have the will to do it. So we're in for a great opportunity. Whether we take advantage of it or squander it, it is all of us here. Do we have anyone else? Yes. Oh, yes, we forgot you.
So, with your leadership practice, would you say that as life events happen, so I think, I'm just speaking for myself, so when I originally wanted to be a leader and be in a management role, when I started in financial aid at 25 years old, I had this understanding that I wanted to learn the area, become an expert in it, and be able to enhance others around me and protect that. But then as I became a wife and a mother, my objectives changed because I'm now mentoring and working in different relationships in my personal life that's now enhancing my ability to embrace others and help them in my professional life. So would you say that you saw your leadership grow and change as these other life events took place, or did you disagree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Your life experience is the part of your value. That's what I said, lead from your value system. Your life experience enhances your cultural background, heritage, your personal experience, and those things really, really help. I am such a passionate advocate for students because I was a student. And when I was a student in China, environment was very different. And the reason I became an administrator from a full-time faculty member was an experience. It's just a dramatic experience that changed my life trajectory. I was a professor, and I was a very popular professor, so students signed up for my classes. And one day, I'm teaching a class, and I found that there were like 2 rows of students far in the back. They have never attended my classes before. So I'm saying to my students, I said, who are these people? So my student sitting in the front row says, oh, these are our friends, because you told us you love students. And our friends said, they like, what we told them about our class. So we said, don't worry, our professor won't mind, just come, sit. So I said, I don't mind at all, just sit there. After class, we need to go to the dean's office to change your registration, move your registration from whatever the classes you are into mine. So we all marched into the dean's office, and this is way back in China in 80s. So first of all, it's really a bad idea to march into the dean's office, because I didn't even know who dean was. Honestly, I just followed the sign that says dean's office, and I took 10 students with me and then marched right in. That was a really terrible thing. So we walked in, I told the dean what I wanted, and the dean looked at me and said, no. And I said, why not? No, that's another terrible thing to say to the Communist Party secretary, why not? And he said, that's just a policy. You can't change your registration. You are assigned it to the classes. So I did the third terrible thing. I said, that's a stupid policy. So 3 strikes, I'm out, Is that when you were deported? I ran away from it, So I realized if I don't run away, I'm going to be in trouble. So that changed my mind. I said to myself, I was a very good professor. I influence students' lives that I teach. But if I'm in that chair, I would not make that stupid decision. I will let the students choose which class they want to go. So I start to think about going into administration. That's how so your life is no different. Just don't think that something is not right. Why am I changing my views? No, we all went through the same thing.
That's one of the reasons why I went to financial aid, because I think I'm
Yeah.
historian.
Yeah. Yeah, and changing your life trajectory is not meaning that you are so kind of stupid, undecided about your life. Look, I left the law school. I changed my mind too, Only maybe 6-7 years ago, I did not want to become a president, no matter what anybody tells me. Until this position becomes open, 2 of my friends were so dogged, they won't get off the phone until I say yes. So I said yes, and the search firm was calling my house, and my husband answered the phone, and my husband talked me, he tricked me, he didn't talk me. On Valentine's Day, he drove me to Mercer's campus. And I'm like, why are we here? He said, well, I want you to think about this idea, applying for this job. But before you do, I want you to see the campus. And he knows me too well. The minute I talk to the students, my heart melts. So that's how he got me into apply. So we went on Saturday, snowy Valentine's Day. He drove to the Mercer County Community College campus, and we spent all day there. I was talking to people in the cafeteria, in the hallway, outside of the classroom, drove to the Kearney campus in Trenton. and almost didn't let us in. The security asked us why we were here, and my husband said, we're thinking about sending our kids to college. I'm like, a great excuse. So he bears most responsibility when he complained that I work too hard. I say, well, hey, you have something to do with that too, you know? You got me into this. So just a short 6-7 years ago, I wasn't gung-ho about going for a presidency because I thought it was too hard, it's too much work. I stayed second in command, so I don't have to make the final decisions and all that stuff. But then here we are, you know? So don't think a change of mind is a bad thing. Life changes. Did I answer your question? Yes. Okay. Do we have any other questions? Thank you for being a wonderful audience.